Hi, and welcome to our video on linking to an external document from within PPO. Now, normally PPO requires a physical file to be uploaded when you add a document to PPO, but sometimes you might want to only supply a link to an external document rather than uploading a file. Now, currently, if you add a document on PPO, you will be required to complete the title, description, physical file, type and status, as all these fields are required fields. So by default, the physical file field is required as it forms a central part of the document management functionality in PPO. So if you wanted to implement a link to an external document, the first thing you would need to do is to log a support call asking the PPO support team to make the physical file field non-required. After they've implemented that change, you would need to go and add a link field. So within the administration module, you're going to access the data fields and look at your documents entity. I'm going to then click on any of these unused fields and implement a link field. Enter the caption and the description. Then we recommend that the link field and the physical file field are added in their own category called physical file and link. Then select the correct field type and ensure that the link field is in use. Submit the field and then move the physical file field into our newly created category. If you now access the documents entity again and you click on the add document icon, you will notice that the physical file field and the link field are in their own category called physical file and link. So if you wanted to upload a link to an external document, you would do as follows. Now let's assume I wanted to link to the technical fact sheet which is on the PPO website. Then in the link field, I'm just going to paste the link from the website. Then select the type and the correct status. After submitting, you will notice that a hyperlink appears, and if the user then clicks on this, they will be taken to that technical fact sheet on the website. So now, since the physical file field and the link field are non-required, you probably want to implement a validation rule which will ensure that the user either uploads a physical file or they specify a link. So to set up those validation rules, we are going to access the administration side and access our business rules. So let's set up this rule. Give our rule a name and then select the documents entity. Ensure that the event is correct, the rule is active, and that the action is also correct. Then supply the message that you want the user to see if they don't supply a physical file or a link. So they must specify either one of the two. So now let's add the conditions for this rule. So the condition is going to be on new value. So when new records are added that do not yet exist in PPO. Then select our new filter and give our filter an appropriate name. So the fields we're filtering on is the physical file field and the link field. So we don't want both of those fields to be empty. Then select our filter items. So the first field we're filtering on is the physical file field. So where the physical file field is empty, please apply this rule. So submit your filter item, and the other field is the link field. So where the link field is empty, please apply this rule. Then submit your filter items, and then in the evaluation expression as well, you'll notice that it's looking at the physical file field and the link field. So both of them are not allowed to be empty. Then submit the filter and then submit your business rule. Now I just want to quickly do a check to ensure that we've set up this rule correctly. So if I now go and add a new document, let's say the business case, and I don't upload a physical file or I don't supply a link, select the correct type and status, and I submit, that business rule then kicks in. If I now go and browse for a physical file and I submit, then PPO will allow it, as I have either supplied a physical file or, obviously in this example, not a link. Now what would happen if I wanted to make changes to this business case? So if I edit the document and I only update the metadata, for example, I've changed the status to approved. So now I don't supply a physical file again because I've already uploaded it, and I don't supply a link. So now if I go and submit the document, again that business rule is going to apply. So I would need to access the business rule again and add an exception to that rule, that when a user tries and edits a document which contains a physical file, but they only make changes to the metadata, that it will allow it. What would have happened if I edit a document that contains a link? That link will just remain. So the exception will only be on the physical file field. So when accessing the administration module, let's go back to the business rules and click on the business rule. Now let's add that exception. So under the exceptions, click on the green plus sign, and this will be on the old values, as you are making changes to a record that already exists. So this document already exists. All we're doing is making changes to the metadata. So then let's select our filter, and again we're only filtering on the physical file. So give your filter an appropriate name, and then add my filter items. The field we're filtering on is the physical file field, is empty, and then I need to make changes to my evaluation expression and negate the exception, as we don't have an operator value that says where the physical file field is not empty. Then submit the filter, and then submit the entire business rule. Let's just quickly test whether this is now also working correctly. So if I would now click on the business case, edit it, and only make changes to the metadata, and then submit the document, it should allow me now to do this. Now you might also want to implement a rule that restricts users of uploading physical files to PPO, except if they are in the PPO administrator group. So due to company policies, you don't want your users uploading physical files to PPO, but rather supplying links to an external document. So if you wanted to implement this rule, you would need to add an exception, and the exception would be that you will allow a user or an administrator in this example to still upload a physical file if the physical file is a SVG file. So the SVG files are used within the life cycle, so they do need to be uploaded as physical documents. So now let's set up this rule. So within the administration module, we are going to add another business rule. So now let's give our validation rule a name. So, as we've mentioned, we only want our users to supply a link and not upload a physical file, except if it's a SVG file. So our entity again that the rule applies to is our document entity. Ensure that the event is correct, our rule is active, and that the action is correct. Then supply the message that you want the user to see. Then we're going to add the conditions. Click on our green plus sign, and the field that we're going to filter on again is new values. So when new records are added, this rule should be applied. Then select our filter and give our filter a name. Then add the field that we're going to filter on. In this example, it's going to be the physical file field, is empty. And then change our evaluation expression to negate the exception, and then submit our filter. The exception we now need to add is on the SVG files. So under the exceptions, click on the green plus sign, and it's also going to be on the new values. Then let's add our filter, give our filter a name, and now we're only setting it up for documents that have a SVG file format. Then add the filter item, submit our filter item, and then submit our entire filter. If you wanted to, you could have also added another exception to the rule for a specific user group. Once happy, go and submit the business rule. Now let's go quickly test whether this is working. So within the documents entity, I'm going to add a new document and try and upload a Word document instead of a SVG document. So let's quickly complete the metadata. I now go and browse for the physical file, but I don't upload the SVG file, but I just upload a Word document. Select the type and the status, and then try and submit the document. You will now see that it doesn't allow me to do that because of the business rule that I've set up. If I now go and browse for the SVG file and try and submit again, it will now allow me to do that. Thank you for watching this video. We hope you learned a lot about linking to an external document.
Learn more about PPO today by visiting us at projectportfoliooffice.com. PPO, your award-winning project management solution.